I'll try to tell you why they use it wrong. This is a lady from a UK hospital. This is what it looks like. Does any of you see anything here where you say, looks wrong? Looks wrong. What did I address? I addressed high flow therapy, protect yourself. I addressed pollution to you. Please try to protect yourself with the right technology. And what you see here on this picture is a mouthpiece. How do you protect yourself with a high flow therapy supporting a mouthpiece? I would tell her to switch over to a face mask, simply because that would protect her better, the midwife, right? I would also tell her that I do not think the inhalation device is the right device. Why? Do we have any clever midwives raising the hand here? Do you see an exhalation hose anywhere? How does that midwife now protect herself from being contaminated by the exhale gas and also feel lightheaded? See what I mean? I mean, you need to focus here. What Sarah described to you is that, hey, you have a responsibility. I used to be an ICU nurse. I had the responsibility over one patient. You have it on a mom and a baby. So you should focus and you should try to protect yourself. So there is no exhalation hose, meaning that all the exhale gas will come out of the small hose that you see here. So the work environment for the midwife will not be the best. I hope that you now go back to your hospitals and say, okay, do we work with the right approach on this? And here in Scandinavia, there are threshold limits for exposure, meaning that I do think that you all use an exhalation hose to guide this away from yourself. But yeah, you need to use a face mask. When I'm educating about this, I also address this use of a face mask. That's not a normal thing. If I now go out to the public here and say, hey, use gas inhaling through a mask, have you tried it? How many of the people out there will say, yeah, I've done it? Meaning that when you see the ladies coming in, I don't think a lot of them have tried to inhale through a face mask. So when I address this, I address it as an educational thing that I do think you need to educate the women and say, hey, this is going to be a face mask thing. You need to inhale. Can you please try it so I can see that you're good at it? As soon as possible, please do it, right? If we go to the technical things, this is a face mask, or is it? No, it's a nasal mask. This is what a dentist will use. And when I look at the molecule selling of nitrous oxide, who's going to use most of it? It's by all means the dentist. It's impossible to visit a dentist in US and not use nitrous oxide. They use a nasal mask. You should use a full-size face mask. Then what you also should use is premix. I know that here in Scandinavia that we also use mixers in different settings, meaning that you can titrate to different settings. So it could be 75, 25, 50, 50. The ideal dose is 50, 50. When I'm in UK, everybody uses 50, 50. You should use a device that is driven by a demand flow, meaning that it closes as soon as the inhalation is over. Stop inhalation, meaning stop dosing. So that's the design of a demand inhalation device. You connect that cylinder, and you're basically ready to go. So this is how the midwives in UK use it, right? They go like this. They connect a valve to protect the inhalation device, like that. And then they're good to go with the mouthpiece. So they will bring this gear back to a home birth with a hot tub. So when I'm in UK, this is how they do it. Mobile cylinders put into a bag, go home to a home birth setting, and then they do it. When I'm in UK now, I try to say, hey, you could protect yourself a little better on it because you will still just exhale through this thing that we have here, right? So I changed them over to say, protect yourself with a face mask. And then I address the scavenging. Scavenging means that you collect exhale gas and you remove it away from yourself. And I address it with a simple hose. So a simple hose here where they then just extend it to being as long as possible will protect them. I mean, now they can guide the exhaled air to wherever they think would be reasonable. So this will do a lot of good for the UK midwives, right? You capture the exhaled gas into a face mask, and then you drive the exhaled gas to where they think it's best possible. So that could be out of the window, it could be on the floor, they decide. Nitrous oxide is a heavy gas, so it will fall to the floor. So this is what they do in UK. All over the place, home birth, hot tub, it's a guideline, right? Please, if you have any questions on it, feel free to raise the hand and say, hey, Yannick, this is crazy, we do not understand what you mean, but this is the way it is, right? Then when I travel with this, and I did address this up in Scotland now with the climate issue. So in UK, all hospitals now really, really strongly focus on the nitric oxide program and say, what do we do with it? To give you an example of what does it look like here in Denmark, Rigshospitalet, the university hospital that we have in Copenhagen, I was called to a meeting 2 months ago, and they said, Yannick, we have an issue. I said, what's the issue? What do you call me? They say 10% of our CO2 footprint comes from the midwife. What do you mean? I mean, what are you talking about? And they said the midwives use so much of this gas that it leaves behind a footprint of 10%. So either we stop it or you do something about it. And I mean, what do you think the industry here will do? They will do something about it, right? So the industry, and this is the company that I work with, I know that some of you raised the hand saying, hey, we're from Sweden. You solved this 12 years ago because all the exhale gas goes into a wall outlet, and then behind that wall outlet is a pipe system piped into a basement, and then in the basement you have an oversized fridge that heats up all the exhale gas and destroys it into nitrogen and oxygen. You did this 12 years ago in Sweden. So I mean, that's, yeah, good thing Sweden. I mean, Sweden is an extreme climate-friendly country, so you did this, 12 years ago. We're behind in Denmark. I think we're catching up, and I do think that we're catching up faster than we can do in UK, because here in Denmark we have extremely good and clever midwives, meaning that you already protect yourself. So you capture all the exhale gas, right? Because you want to protect yourself. And you remove it to an outlet. So you have done what you can do. Now the technical people need to connect that pipeline to the big oversized fridge. How do I do that when I'm in UK? When I'm in UK, they use that system, right? So they don't capture anything. They basically don't, I'm not going to say they don't care about the midwives because they do, but they don't capture the exhale gas. So we're stuck in a little bit of an other issue here, meaning that I need now to come in and address, I think you need to do a little bit better job on capturing the exhale gas, removing it from staff, and then I come with my technology. My technology is not this. I don't sell the molecules. My technology is not this. I don't sell any plastic stuff. My technology is basically this box, right? This is the box. This is a technology that destroys the nitrous oxide gas into nitrous and into nitrogen and oxygen, which is room air. What do I expect? Do I expect all delivery suites to have one of these mobile units? Absolutely not. That would be totally crazy. But I do now see that the technology has started rolling, and these midwives are saying, okay, let's do good for us. And at the same time, let's do good for the environment. So let's try a couple of those mobile units. And by showing that we can do it, then the technical guy will get an interest to it and plug in one of those oversized fridge into the basement. You will not see the difference, but the 10% that the university hospital now are talking about, they will be removed. So of course that's how we now address the issue, right? So my message is to you, I think you're doing an excellent job. I think you're capturing all the cell gas. I think you're removing it to the right place. And now behind there needs to be a pipeline that connects into a bigger sized technology because we upscale it and then we destroy it. But yeah, I don't know if you saw the BBC News. I don't think you did, but I mean, it's a big story in UK. I was there 2 months ago, and one of the hospitals said, okay, we want to be the first one, so we want to be the first one saying green baby delivery. It could be, I know it could mean something else in your work, but they promoted it to say, hey, safe and zero admission on a child. So that's what they did, right? They took one of those mobile units, they plugged this into here, and they said, okay, let's do it. So that went on the BBC News because this is the climate wave rolling. You have it in Sweden. I think Denmark is picking up. But I do think that there's a message here for the rest of you, and that's, I think the Congress, or the symposium that Sarah and Gudson are hosting here is a perfect example on it, that the procedure of pain relief will have multiple tools in the backpack on all of you. And one of them is, of course, nitrous oxide, this gas, but the hot tub, the water, I think we should do it. Absolutely, it's a guideline you need. Right. Timing, Sarah, are we on time?
15 minutes left.
All right, goody. Any questions on anything of this?
What is the cost per birth?
What is the cost per birth? What's the cost per birth today? The cost per birth today in Denmark is approximately 100 to 250 Danish kroner. I talk about the gas molecule, and I talk about the single disposables that you need for that. When you now start to compare that with other tools, the epidural, what's the cost on that? Right? So the university hospital in Copenhagen addressed the 10% with saying, okay, this is X amount of tons of CO2. What's going to be the price tag to remove it? What's going to be the price tag to remove it? And if we just go a slide forward, to this one. Then I do think it's important that you realize that there might be an issue with the nitrous oxide program, and that we can deal with it, right? So here, this is not my piece of paper. This is why they address the nitrous oxide as being an issue. If global healthcare was considered a country, it would be the 5th highest with regards to greenhouse gas emissions. This is us all, right? I mean, so we need to now address, okay, where can we get impact and solve the issue? Also saying nitrous oxide has the global warming potential 100 of 298. What does that mean? That means that 1 kilo of this is equal to 298 kilos of CO2. Meaning that the hospital in Copenhagen have addressed it, right? They say, hey, because of this, if we now escalate it up and we need to multiply with 298, okay, that's the 10%. That's the 10%. So they are also saying the use of inhaled nitrous oxide for 1 hour of 1 liter per minute has the CO2 equivalent of a car trip of 95 kilometers. 1 liter. I don't think any of your high flow ladies will use 1 liter. So that's why they now address the technology and say, okay, midwives are doing great. They're collecting all the exhale gas. They're moving it to a pipeline system. What do we do next? So this is what they're saying. They're also saying that careful planning on scavenging. What does scavenging mean? It means that you collect exhaled gas and you remove it. Remember the picture that we had in UK? They do not collect anything. So even though they have a very good process described and they have standardized everything, I mean, they still need to now go in and address the midwives and say, okay, we know that we have an issue. Could you upgrade your competence perhaps and start to collect exhale gas and remove it, right? So careful planning on scavenging and ventilation system is crucial to not to have excessive exposure. Some of you react differently to these levels of exposure. I lost my career as an ICU nurse to hand soap. I could not deal with it. I could not keep on washing my hands. It's just to say that we react differently to different chemicals, right? So I do think protect yourself. Sarah did ask about price. Back to the price. What's the price? The Rigshospital has already a pipe system in place. They do not need a mobile unit. Why should they have a mobile unit? They're already now collecting all the exhale gas into a pipe system. Now they need to plug in an oversized fridge to destroy from multiple rooms. I don't know how many rooms they have. Let's say that they have 15. They need to buy one of these, or either they buy or they rent. If they say rent, I say 55,000 Danish kroner per month. If they say buy, I say 2.5 million Danish kroner. It's just to say that there's a price tag to it. But even if I have a price tag, the university or hospital will still say, okay, that oversized fridge will now destroy 10% of our total CO2 footprint. How can we do that elsewhere? And the university hospital in Copenhagen was quite clear. They said, okay, we could also do solar panels, to the roof, windmills in the parking lot. We could go and find issues with all our plastic. But if we have good midwives collecting and removing, we're good to go. Now we need the pipe system. Okay, we have that. Now we just need to plug in one of those, and we have committed ourselves to removing 10%. And that's why we have the meeting up in Scotland, right? That healthcare has also a responsibility. But it can only work if midwives work good with the system. And that's not really a mouthpiece. It's not really, that you do not use the proper tools for safeguarding yourself. Remove, right? Last thing that I need to talk about is, of course, okay, how do you even know what kind of levels that you're exposed to? I know now what kind of levels I'm exposed to just standing here, because what we all also have is, I had a lot of stuff in my pocket, but I also have this. And this is a personalized detector that we have. So this will send a beep to me if I now work in an area where I'm heavily exposed. So this is a personal tool to safeguard myself that midwives could wear on their uniform, and that will send a beep to them and say, okay, you're perhaps not doing, what you should do. Is it possible now for you to change anything? Can you address the patient and tell them to be a little bit better on exhaling back to the mask or anything like that? So this is a personalized detector that I do think that staff could wear in their uniform to safeguard themselves. I think I have covered most. All right. What Sarah there was saying is that Katrina can go around, and if there's any questions to any of these things that I do talk about, please go ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
I was just wondering, so if you use it correctly, then there's no exposure for the midwife at all?
I'll demonstrate it, all right? I don't think I will demonstrate it with real gas, but this is, of course, the concern that I do have, right? I do have a concern on the mouth thing. High flow therapy, I think you should use a full-size face mask. If you now go like this and you inhale real heavily, high flow, they will do it really, really heavily. And you just go like this. You're exposed. You are going to be exposed. You're less exposed than a dentist. A dentist will be much more exposed because he will use a face mask. He cannot use a trigger system because it's an open system. He cannot trigger. The patient will not trigger. It's a free flow system, and then the dentist works right there. He's going to be exposed to high levels. You're better off because you need to move. You understand what I mean? That even though the patient really, really moves air to the extreme, you're better off because you're at the other end of the patient, hopefully, and you move around. But you will be exposed. So I, of course, address that you use the proper exhalation devices and that you address these and say, okay, are they updated? Meaning that you should use a closed circuit. And if there's any opening in the circuits, where should they be? As low as possible, because it's a heavy gas, it will overspill and drop to the floor. Should not be up in your work area. And you can still improve. So what I do when I educate about it, I say, okay, ooh, this is good. This is a tight seal around both the mouth and the nose. You're doing good. If they now want to remove the mask, you address it to them and say, okay, if you want to remove the mask, can you please remove it just 5 centimeters away from your mouth and nose and go, ooh, ooh. Do you see now the point that now you still are protected? I mean, this is the COVID-19, so we know something about using masks, right? So tell them if they want to have the breaks, which they should have, that remove them 5 centimeters, exhale back to the mask, do that for 5 to 6 exhalations, and then you're good to go. I really think you should address the women here, right? I mean, address the women, try to practice a little bit with them before the stress, and say, okay, I don't think you have ever used a face mask. Would it be okay that, you teach and you try it a little bit? And I do also think that you should have different sizes on face mask. I mean, I'm a big guy, right? I'm 90 kilos, so I have a big head. Okay, I will probably use a size 4 mask. Okay, what if a small lady comes in with a small face? What kind of size does she need? I would think 2 or 3 on the size. So I do think you should have different sizes. It's important because it's a protection tool to you. Yeah. Was it an okay answer? All right, thank you. Hi.
I'm a midwife in Holland.
Mm-hmm.
We're very proud of you and a lot of homework.
Mm-hmm.
But the most problem is that a lot of people from home go to hospitals now to get a pain relief. And we're fortunate that we have the gas in the nearest hospital. We have the chamber,
Mm-hmm.
so that if they take it off, then it's not usable as well. But we were, of course, curious, how can we use these probably at home? So we keep the hospitals more empty, overcrowded,
Mm-hmm.
and we want to have more home birth, and we can offer them. So maybe in Korea in Holland to make it a little bit smaller. Is there possible to save at home?
You're talking about a double mask, right? Or a chin?
Yeah, we have a chin mask.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they do,
Yep.
and then they don't have to exhalate and keep the mask for the mouth also.
Yep.
And people are happy to use it,
Mm-hmm.
but we are more happy to keep them out.
I think you have an excellent home birth thing going on in Holland. What I read from some of the studies is that a lot of ladies prefer to have home birth in Holland. I don't remember the percentage, but okay. But anyway, what I would recommend is, of course, that when you do Entonox, the nitrous oxide therapy at home, that you, of course, safeguard yourself with adding the exhalation hose, and you know, remove that to somewhere. And then the double mask. The double mask, I'm not sure that everybody is on the page on a double mask. Sweden is a very concerned country on this, so they have developed a double mask, meaning that on the inner mask, you still dose the gas. On the outer mask, and this is a double mask, so there is a double mask, there is a mask outside the inner mask. There is a continuous high vacuum, meaning that as soon as the lady drops the face mask to here, there will be an extreme high vacuum sucking up all the exhale gas. That's the intention on the technology. If they now remove the mask to here, the technology is not worth anything. So, but in Holland, I have seen that you use a chin mask to protect yourself, and it lies here with a continuous vacuum, right? How do you do that in a home birth setting? I mean, the vacuum, where will you find it? You cannot. So what I see in UK is that if midwives have the soap problem that I described, meaning that these midwives, you know, have a sense of not really feeling good about the nitrous oxide themselves, and some of the staff will do that, saying, hey, I have a different tolerance level than my colleagues. They use a fan. They simply bring a fan. So a very simple fan that just stands next to the patient and, of course, blows the air away from them. You said 1 minute, right? All right, good. I don't think I have anything else. I'm going to be here, as Sarah did say. Yes, I am up for election. I'm running for the city council in where I live in the city, so I need to be back. City election day in Denmark. I'm going to be right out here. If you have any questions, you know, during lunch, come over and ask me. But other than that, on the presentations, there is of course, my email address and me. Take a picture of that. I'm very open to anything you want to ask me about. You can see it, but this is me, right? Anyway, thank you for listening, and to the rest of you that did not come out and visit me, I wish you all a happy day. Thank you, Sarah, for inviting me.